Roger, it's great to have you with us on the Great America Show. I want to start with first the big beautiful bill and what's going on with it in the House. Obviously, it's passed the House now into the Senate, but what I've been realizing lately is there's some sort of rift between Elon Musk and some Republicans. Elon was on a television show earlier this morning and had this to say about the big beautiful bill.
I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly. Which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing.
I actually thought that when this big, beautiful bill came along. I mean, everything he's done on Doge gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both. My personal opinion.
So, what's your thoughts, Roger?
Well, first of all, let's recognize there's a lot of very important stuff that is in the bill. Most importantly, the extension of the Trump tax cuts. These are the largest tax cuts in American history. They're set to expire in January. So if you were against the bill, that meant de facto you were in favor of the greatest single one-time tax increase in our nation's history. Mm-hmm. Also, obviously, doing away with the tax on tips, which I think won Trump the swing state of Nevada, for example. Also, good public policy. It's interesting that the guy who cuts my hair, very excited about this. Beyond that, of course, no tax on Social Security, no tax on retirement, tax credit if you buy a vehicle, a car, or a truck made in the United States. A lot of good stuff in the bill. Elon's not wrong about the fact that House Republicans don't seem to want to come to grips with the problem of spending. The president's economic plan has three parts: tariffs, which I think is actually going quite well. In the end, Trump will bludgeon all of our trading partners in giving us a fair deal. In every case, their tariffs on us are higher than our tariffs on them. That's right. Just a fact. Secondarily, of course, is tax reduction. And thirdly, we have to get spending under control. Elon Musk has shown the way. He has uncovered not millions, not billions, but trillions of dollars in waste, fraud, and corruption. As things stand now, we're going to continue to fund terrorist organizations abroad from USAID. So they have to get serious about cutting spending. I think that's what Elon was referring to. Hopefully, as the bill gets through the Senate, there will be some spending cuts that are real. Yes, you can cut spending substantially without hurting people on Medicare or Social Security. The Democrats continuing to claim Trump is gutting both programs. That's the same crap that they feed us every 2 or 4 years. It's not true. But there is billions of dollars worth of wasteful spending. After Doge, nobody can deny that.
Yeah. There's never going to be a cutting of the deficit, Roger, without a cutting of spending. And it's very, very simple to understand. You don't have to be an economist to understand it. But no Republican ever seems to want to do it. You've got those two Republicans who voted against him. One of them is Thomas Massie, who I've been going at for the last week. And I mean, I'm getting so much blowback from people that he's not a rhino, he's not this. If he wants a grandstand and do that, do it when it's a 10-person majority, not a 2-person slim majority where we need every single last Republican to get this bill through, because he could single-handedly hold up President Trump's administration for the next 3 years. That's the way I see it. What is it with these Republicans, Roger, who just don't want to cut spending? What is so hard to just say, let's cut $1 trillion out of spending over the next, 5 years? It doesn't have to be $1 trillion in a year, but they don't want to cut a single dollar, let alone $1 trillion.
Congressman Massey should recognize the more important, favorable portions of the bill. The bill's not perfect. By the way, I bet there's not a single member of Congress who thinks everything in there is ideal. No. But the larger stuff, for example, the extension of the across-the-board tax cuts, are more important than the issues that he's raising. Republicans talk a great game. That's the problem. We always talk about cutting spending. We talk about it every 2 or 4 years, but then we don't actually do it. It's part and parcel of the swamp. You tell the folks back home one thing, use those issues to raise money, big dollars and small. But when you go to Washington, the pressure on you from the special interests to say, oh, don't cut my stuff, cut that guy over there, is just overwhelming. You're right, though. We have a very slim majority. And frankly, if we don't get serious about election integrity, we will lose the House. Our majority could be larger if the House Administration Committee and Speaker Johnson had the courage to unseat Kathy Castor, for example, in Florida's 14th district, because she didn't win, and seat the Republican candidate who did win. All you've got to do is look at the 54,000 mail-in ballots, the voters for whom have no birth dates or social security numbers on their voter applications, or look at those seats in Orange County, California, where more people voted than are registered to vote. We have to be more like the Democrats. We have to be bloodless, and we have to take the seats that we have rightfully won, and not seat Democrats who cheat.
That was a wild conspiracy, what you said, Roger. There's no such thing as election fraud. I'll never forget, I had a buddy who went down to Arizona in 2020 to investigate fraud. He got down there, Roger. The first house they sent him to was a little cottage, maybe 500 square feet. 35 people were registered to vote in that house, Roger. That's all you needed to know before you moved on. You'd mentioned Mike Johnson, and this seems eerily, and I want to get your take on this, eerily what it felt like President Trump's first term in 2016 with Paul Ryan. Johnson is not really anywhere to be found right now. Donald Trump, doing all his own work, was on Capitol Hill to lobby for that bill. Some say he went up voluntarily. He probably did, but at the same time, he didn't want to take an L on the bill. What is Mike Johnson doing right now? Does he want to lose the House?
Look, I think he has a near impossible job. He's got a very thin majority. He's got a caucus in which many members don't want to do anything. They just want to raise money for their reelection, get reelected, and go home. Joe Biden and his family got caught taking millions. Oh, well, let's just let that go.
Yeah.
They don't want to do anything. And then you have courageous members like Anna Paulina Luna, for example, and others, Tim Burchett, among others, who are very serious about fundamental change and this unique 4 or 2 year opportunity we have to get big things done. So I think Johnson's problem here is getting a majority of his caucus for anything is virtually impossible. He's got a very difficult job because the rhinos in the House, they don't want to do anything. They don't want to change anything. They just want to get reelected.
But Johnson knew this going into the job. It's like, why take the job? He knows what went on. He watched what they just did to Kevin McCarthy. He watched 3 guys in front of him fall off the ballot to become the next Speaker of the House, Roger. He knew what he was getting himself into. And you know the crazy thing about it all is I asked a friend who's very, very influential in politics on Capitol Hill, works for a very prominent person, who owns Mike Johnson. And he said, absolutely nobody. He's just completely lost. If that's the case, Roger, how much of a leash are we supposed to give this guy before he hangs himself and ruins it for everybody?
I just think you're being too rough on him. I mean, first of all, I think he has a near impossible job. I do think he tries to put together the votes. Now, look, I don't endorse everything he's done. And the reconciliation, where they kicked the can down the road, the continuing resolution, they told us there was no new spending in there, but it turned out to be millions of dollars of new spending in there. So I'm not, a rollover for Mike Johnson, but I'm just trying to recognize how difficult his job is to get a majority. I think he works very hard to try to get a majority. I think his problem is with his members, not so much with him.
I don't dispute anything you just said. I've heard from all accounts he's a very nice guy. He's a very honorable person. But, Roger, we need a guy who's going to kick the hell out of people. We need a guy who's going to whip people into shape. We don't need a guy who's just going to go along and get along. And I may be too hard on him, but at the end of the day, we need someone, Roger, to get tough. He's a nice guy, but we need someone to get tough.
But, John, there has to be some enforcement. Politicians by nature, particularly incumbents, of course, all they care about is reelection. So, for example, if Tom Tillis thwarts your efforts to put Ed Martin in as the U.S. attorney in D.C., well, then Tom Tillis needs to face a Republican primary in North Carolina with the full weight of the Trump political operation and the Trump fundraising operation behind a challenger. If the senators see that you can cross Donald Trump and you will pay no political price at home, where Trump's policies are more popular than these incumbent senators, then others will be led to do the same thing. If, however, you get the scalp of Tom Tillis politically, then I think senators will think twice about crossing him. So the sooner that a viable challenger rises and it becomes clear that that viable challenger has the resources and full support of the president and his very good political operation and fundraising operation, the sooner senators will think twice against voting against what the people approved in the last election.
I will give Johnson credit on one thing, and that was big last week, was ensuring that Rhino Mike Lawler from New York voted for the bill and ensuring the Rhino Andrew Garbarino passed out drunk in the back of the House floor so that he was unable to vote because he was probably going to vote against it. But that's just what we're told. The truth of the matter is, Roger, this week we find out from Rasmussen, who's the most accurate pollster in this country, Mark Mitchell, that President Trump has the country on the right direction. It says 50% of Americans for the first time since they've started doing this polling. The stock market's up 10%. Egg prices are down 55%. Inflation is at a 5-year low. Gas prices are down, in some cases, 20%. We've got $6 trillion in new U.S. investments, and consumer confidence is at a 4-year high. And this is just in a few short months by himself. What do you expect over the course of the next few months as it pertains to President Trump? His poll numbers right now are through the roof, and it's not exactly smooth sailing, Roger. We're in a trade war with Canada. We're in a trade war with China. We're in a trade war with Russia. It's not exactly smooth times, but the American people trust this man, and they trust the job that he's doing so far, regardless of all that.
First of all, I think the people respect strong leadership. They didn't respect the feckless, incompetent leadership or lack thereof of Joe Biden, who at this point, I think it's pretty clear, was near vegetable for most of his presidency, maybe a rutabaga or a cabbage, I'm not sure which. But then beyond that, the president is out there every day trying to make America both more prosperous and safer. And I think the people, despite the tsunami of disinformation from the lame street media, I think the American people see that. And he continues to chalk up wins. We're going to get to a reasonable trade deal with Canada. We're going to get to a reasonable trade deal with China. We're going to get to a reasonable trade deal for those who want to negotiate in good faith. The EU is a problem. On the other hand, I still think they need us more than we need them. I don't know about you, John, but if I don't have French wine, I guess I could probably get by. I don't know.
I'll drink it from California.
Exactly. So I think the people are with the president. His poll numbers, when you look at real numbers, like those put forward by the folks at Rasmussen, Mark Mitchell, and a handful of other real pollsters, where the numbers aren't cooked by oversampling Democrats or undersampling Trump supporters, I think the American people are still with this president very strongly because he has an agenda. He's not afraid to articulate it. He's not afraid to fight for it. I think Scott Bessent is doing an amazing job. I think that Tulsi Gabbard is doing an amazing job. Yes, we're cleaning out the national security apparatus. Another 100 termites were fired this week. People who are undermining the president's agenda. You know how you can tell we're doing great? John Brennan is upset. That's how. John Brennan says that it's appalling that Tulsi Gabbard fired 2 people who were leaking like sieves and fighting the president's anti-war agenda. If that guy's upset, then you know you're doing something right. And I saw this yesterday. I find this almost humorous. Dick Blumenthal, the senator from Connecticut, a man who lied about seeing action in the military in Vietnam, actually says Dan Bongino is not qualified to be an FBI agent. Bongino, who's a New York police officer and a former Secret Service agent, he's not qualified. Hey, Da Nang Dick, you're not qualified to be a U.S. Senator because you lied about your military service. Stolen valor, my friend. It's disgraceful.
Yeah, that's among the most disgraceful things you can do when it pertains to that. I don't know if you saw also, but you brought that up. James Comey was on, I think, CNN with Wolf Blitzer yesterday after his whole little shenanigans, which was, I mean, ridiculous. And he said, what qualifications does Dan Bongino have? He was just a podcaster, right? What's wrong with podcasters, Roger?
Well, he was also, I believe, a New York police officer and he was a Secret Service agent. So he's more qualified than James Comey was for his position. These people are shameless. And again, Comey will pay no penalty. There'll be no penalty. The idea that he didn't know what 86 means, I guess he's never been to Brooklyn. I mean, everybody knows what that means. The other thing I have to point out, or that really I'm happy about, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., I think doing an amazing job. First of all, phasing out all of these dangerous toxins, dye, red dye, yellow dye, blue dye, other ingredients that we've been allowing in our processed food, phasing them out. But also this news that they are taking the COVID-19 vaccination for healthy children, healthy pregnant women, and they're removing it from the CDC recommended immunization schedule. That is enormous. That's huge. RFK is doing an amazing job. And he's doing everything that he said before the election, when he endorsed Donald Trump, that he would do. And the president is clearly giving him his unqualified support to make America healthy again. So I think, along with Tulsi Gabbard, these are among the president's very, very best appointments.
You forgot one, too, which I got to be honest, has surprised me no end, and it's Marco Rubio. I kind of liked him as a person always. Not really as a politician. You remember the whole Gang of Eight bill, the Amnesty Boys, and he was a very big part of that. But I've got to, like I said with Mike Johnson on some things, I've got to give credit where credit is due. People aren't going to like me saying this, but I'm speaking from the truth and I'm speaking from a observant view. Take it for how you want to take it. Marco Rubio is aligning himself to be a top contender for 2028. Now, a lot of people get mad because they say that it should just automatically be J.D. Vance and flows right in there. We all remember what happened with Mike Pence. Now, I'm not saying that's J.D. Vance. I like J.D. Vance a lot. But there's a very long time ahead, and we can't just assume what's going to be. Marco, Roger, has been the number one most surprising person, in my opinion, in that cabinet.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. I had my policy differences with him, although I also always liked him personally. And very helpful to my family when my wife was fighting cancer. But I think he's doing an amazing job. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he's had a change of heart in terms of some of his views. He's always been very, very good on fighting authoritarian communism in this hemisphere. But I think he understands his job is to carry out the president's agenda. He's done that extremely effectively. So I agree with you. I think it's way early for 2028. Anything can happen. And to try to, I don't know why Steve Bannon keeps insisting that Donald Trump will run for a third term.
He's still doing that?
Oh, yeah, I was doing it again last week. It's, I guess it's just for the clicks because we both understand it's unconstitutional. Also, the president said during Meet the Press that he had no interest in seeking a third term, even if he could. I think he's gratified by the number of people who say it'd be a great idea. I think it'd be a great idea, but I don't think it's a politically viable idea. Steve insists that he'll be sworn in January 2029. I don't see that. And the president, I think, was pretty forthright that although J.D. Vance would certainly have a huge leg up as a sitting vice president, particularly in our party where we believe in hegemony and the natural order of things. But there are other qualified people, Marco Rubio, Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, I think it'll be a large field. It's also light years away. I think we should focus on changing America for the better right now, winning the off-year elections, and then 2028 can take care of itself.
Yes, and you know what? To the audience who gets mad at me or you or you or I for saying that, if we didn't let the primary process play out in 2016, Roger, and we anointed the next man in line, which was Jeb Bush, we'd have never gotten Donald Trump. Primaries are key to assuring that we're not running some sort of authoritarian dictatorship. Primaries are good for the people to look at and expect candidates who they believe is next best to run the country, not an order of succession. That's not how America works, Roger.
Look, I agree. I think intra-party competition is healthy.
Yep.
And it also prepares the nominee for the general election. You're much sharper if you have a contest for the nomination. I did see a poll online the other day testing various candidates, and I saw the name of Ron DeSantis. That's not going to happen. Ron DeSantis has a serious problem here in Florida. He and his wife, I think, have correctly been charged with, or I should say attacked for, currently under investigation for taking $10 million from Medicare that was supposed to pay for health care for the elderly, the poor, and the disabled, and using it for political purposes. His supporters can pretend this is not a problem, but it is a problem. And if he's really interested in running for president in 2028, which he seems to be, then why doesn't he run for the Senate in 2026? There's a Senate seat here. He appointed Ashley Moody, the Attorney General, a very nice lady. Can't think of anything she accomplished as Attorney General. Can't think of anything she's going to accomplish in the U.S. Senate. Why does the governor run for that seat? Running for president as a former governor might work if you're Ronald Reagan because he was a giant, but Ron is not a giant.
I guess you're speaking metaphorically, but no, you're absolutely right. You know, last time I was down in Florida, we did an episode, and we spoke about Steve Bannon, we spoke about Ron DeSantis, all in one episode, and I got a lot of good feedback on the episode. But then there were some Bannon trolls that came on over and said that they would never watch my show again because we were attacking. All we're doing is reporting news, Roger.
Oh, I'm sure that their feelings are hurt. Look, we say what we think on your show.
Yeah.
I get the same crap from the online DeSantis trolls.
Yeah.
I don't really care. To me, you see, loyalty matters. Ron DeSantis would never have been governor but for Donald Trump. Donald Trump lifted him out of obscurity with a tweeted endorsement that turned his campaign into a juggernaut. He cruised to the Republican nomination. Trump himself had to come to Florida twice in the last 3 weeks to drag him across the finish line. He won by 25,000 votes out of over 8.9 million cast. Yet he challenged the man who made him governor for president, and his attacks on the president were very shrill and very personal. Yep. So to me, loyalty matters. And in that event, I think he has exempted himself from future national leadership in the party. He can run if he wants, but I don't think he will get any more traction this time than he got last time.
No, he's a very disloyal person. And you're right. Trump made him who he was. He would have never been anything more than a local congressman if it weren't for Donald Trump saving him against Adam Putnam, who everyone knows, the Putnam family down in Florida. Extremely powerful, wealthy family down in Florida, and Trump just absolutely steamrolled the entire family by going out on the limb and saving Ron DeSantis.
He steamrolled the entire Republican structure. I mean, every Republican county chairman in the state had endorsed Adam Putnam. Every member of the congressional delegation, with the exception of Matt Gaetz, had endorsed Adam Putnam. Every member of the state legislature, both the House and the Senate, where we have the majority, including the Speaker, the Senate President. So Trump rolled the entire establishment to fill Ron DeSantis' campaign coffers and to boost him into the stratosphere as a candidate. And still, Ron struggled with the mayor of Tallahassee, Andrew Gillum, in a very close race, largely because Ron DeSantis doesn't know much about state issues. At least he didn't at the time. He'd been preparing for a U.S. Senate race, had announced for the Senate when it appeared that Marco Rubio was going to retire. Then Rubio reversed himself. So I really think that he owes his governorship to Donald Trump, and therefore he should have given Trump the courtesy of running for another term. The president made it clear that he was running, but instead he challenged him. He spent $300 million, and he got no votes. He got ignominiously crushed in the Iowa caucuses. He got crushed in New Hampshire. He got crushed in the Florida primary, if you go back and look at it. It's interesting. He went to a WWE event the other day, and rather than the kind of raucous welcome that Donald Trump gets when he goes to these UFC events, the governor was booed by the crowd. People were yelling, "You suck." So the idea that he's popular or more popular than Donald Trump in Florida, just not true.
Before we move on, Ron DeSantis, you bring up a good point. Casey DeSantis, his wife, is looking to maybe run for governor. You'd mentioned Matt Gaetz, and Matt Gaetz had tweeted a video out the other day. I don't know if he was trolling or not. That Casey DeSantis would be a great governor. He's good friends with Byron Donalds. Byron has the support of President Trump. What's up with that? Well,
in defense of Matt, I think what he actually said is that she's more talented than her husband, and if she ran, she'd be formidable. He's right on the first point. I also saw that like a day later, he posted something harshly critical of the DeSantises regarding the Hope campaign, that they seem to have siphoned Medicare funds to. So look, I like Matt Gaetz. He's got a very lively show on OAN. I watch it. I like it. I think he does good work. Maybe he was looking for attention. I don't know. Matt could be a viable candidate himself if he chose to run. Don't think he's going to do that. Somebody should challenge Ashley Moody in the primary, in my opinion. Some Trump supporter. She certainly wasn't one. She was a DeSantis supporter. I guess we're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting race. And like I said, Byron Donalds has the support of President Trump. President Trump doing something interesting. He issued some pardons yesterday. One of them was of a sheriff who was just another victim of, it seems, the Biden crime family.
Yeah, this is an incredible act of both mercy and justice, and my hat's really off to the president. Sheriff Scott Jenkins was targeted by the Biden Justice Department for several reasons. One, he had clashed with Governor Northam, the Democrat governor of Virginia, over draconian new gun control laws that the governor wanted to put in place. Secondarily, he had joined with other sheriffs calling to have our southern border sealed, and done so quite publicly. And in his own county, he had the audacity to arrest and seek to deport illegals who were dangerous in his county. But I think his real sin, after he was targeted for all those reasons, they put 2 FBI informants into his department, and they got a guy who was charged with other crimes to testify falsely against him. I think his real sin was getting caught on an FBI wiretap talking to several other sheriffs about looking into Hunter Biden's laptop. So they railroaded this sheriff. They claimed that his collecting campaign contributions in return for giving folks this auxiliary sheriff status, which is, by the way, extremely common in Virginia and across the country. It doesn't give these people any authority. You're a booster of the sheriff. Never put a penny in his own pocket. The money went to his campaign, all very legal. He wasn't allowed to argue any of that at trial. In fact, the judge wouldn't allow him to mount any defense whatsoever. So he was railroaded. He was looking at 10 years. And here's the worst part. They were going to put the sheriff, who locked up a lot of bad guys, in general population in a federal penitentiary in Virginia with drug dealers and murderers, where I think, frankly, his life would have been in danger. So the president examined this case, saw that it was yet another example of weaponized lawfare. Sheriff Jenkins is very famous because he actually followed a one-man crime spree, a man who went across 3 counties shooting at citizens with an AK-47. And in a shootout, in an exchange of 19 rounds, Sheriff Jenkins shot and killed this guy before he was able to kill people.
Wow.
So, I mean, he's a courageous, honest guy. Another example of lawfare by the Biden Justice Department. And now, thanks to this incredible act of mercy and justice by President Donald Trump, the sheriff is not going to prison. He's been fully and unconditionally pardoned. He was on my show last night. We're going to post it shortly, but as you know, we're on every night at 8 p.m. at WABCRadio.com, WABCRadio.com. Drop into the Stone Zone every night at 8. Check it out.
Roger, as always, it's great talking with you. We'll have you back here once again next week when you're back from your vacationing. I'm just kidding. You don't take vacations. You work perhaps harder than anybody I know. Roger, we'll see you next week, brother.
Great to be with you. Thanks, John.